It's the Good Girl Show. It's the Good Girl Show. It's the Good Girl Show.
Good evening, everybody. Such a pleasure to be here. I have been here every year, summit after summit. And what an honor to be here as a speaker. I'm here to talk about the Good Girl Show, the first ever show that I'm writing and directing. It's a web series, and we're still under production. In fact, I just came from the floor. We're still in the process of production. Who's the good girl? Was the question. Oh yeah, here I see. Who all are good girls here? Good girls, good girls, good girls, good girls, so many of them. So the question actually, this idea actually came to me when I was doing laundry with my twins who are 10 years old. We were putting stuff in washing machine, we were taking it out for drying it up. And my son, who's 9 years old, picks up my bra and asks me, Mama, ye kya hai? So my first reaction was to pull my dupatta, like, yeah, which meant that I had to have this conversation with my son because he also had a sister who was his age, and which meant that this was time when we talked about, we used words and we discussed things which we never discussed when we were growing up. And that reminded me that when I was growing up, I was never told about my body and how the body will change and what happens when you start menstruating and what happens when, in fact, when you get married, nobody talks about sex, nobody talks about orgasm, nobody talks about, there's so many taboo words that nobody talks about. So one has to have a conversation on that. And nobody talks about that because you don't talk about these things with your girls. You don't talk about these things because you want to raise these girls who understand everything, who know everything, and yet they do not have any desire, who have no sexuality to explore, who have no identity, and who, for a long, long time, they're conditioned in a way that they don't even know what they want to become when they grow up. So just to cut a long story short, these were the questions that we wanted to address in the form of stories, episodic stories. And when we started looking at content, we realized that either there were Balaji serials, Sasural Simarka and the likes, or there were very preachy audio videos and conversations that were happening. Not preachy really, but very academic, intellectual conversations which were happening around feminism. So there was nothing in between. So what happened to the real stories? And where would we get the real stories from? So we started reaching out to a lot of girls between 18 to 20, 25 to know and understand what their problems were. And these problems, not problems really, what were the stories that they wanted to tell? What were the conversations that they wanted to have? What were the everyday issues that they wanted to talk about? And all of that in a very entertaining, light manner. So that's how the Good Girl Show was born. The Good Girl Show eventually will not only look at 18 to 25 category, but we will eventually also have a Mad Mama show, and we will also have empty nest shows, and hopefully we'll have shows where we look at various, we'll travel through the journeys that a woman takes in her life and the kind of issues that matter to her.